The myth of the sallana. The myth of the sallana was born in New Spain, what today is Mexico, during the colonial era. It is said that she was a beautiful woman from an aristocratic family in the city of Villavicencio. She was married to a kind and respectable man of the place, and they also had a small son. She lived a comfortable and quiet life, but wrongly the woman always paid attention to what people said, because she used to live of what people would say. She was terrified of being the subject of gossip, besides being jealous because she thought that other women wanted to take her husband because he was wealthy and good party, so she spent her time spying on what he did. She did not allow women among the servants. On a certain occasion, while she was walking through town visiting her friends to comment on the news of the lives of the other people in town, the terrible rumor reached her ears that her husband was betraying her with his mother. A rumor spread to make her angry because everyone knew how jealous and conceited she was. As soon as the woman heard the rumor, she let herself be carried away by jealousy, and far from clarifying the possible infidelity with her relatives, she arrived home in a rage. The first thing she did was to go to her little son, taking his life with a knife to cause pain to the father, who, alerted by the cries of the child, ran to meet him, but it was too late. Stunned, he did not understand what was happening or who had hurt his son. The woman, without saying a word and being behind him, decapitated her husband, then went to the room of his poor mother, who was leaving, to see what was happening. When he met her, the sallana gave her several stab wounds, leaving her in agony while she claimed her alleged betrayal. When she came to, she set fire to the house, because she wanted to erase all traces of suspicion. The mother, who was still alive, told her with her last breath, "Your name will be Sallana, and you will wander the plain scaring drunks and gossips for the great sin you committed." From then on, it is said that a very beautiful woman appears at night to the drunks, scaring them with a sinister laughter. The woman covers her body with a black cloth, and that is precisely her way of attracting them. When she manages to have them in front of her, she opens her coat, revealing the macabre skull she hides. La Sallana is a perverse woman who seeks to make amends for all the evil she did to her family, who loved her so much. She also persecutes gossiping women, because she thinks that they were the cause of the jealousy that led to her misfortune. We will talk about the myth of the werewolf in Mexico, since it was not exempt of its legends that told the stories of that sinister being that, at the rays of the full moon, took the form of a hairy animal to go out to feed on innocent beings. That was a version brought from the old continent in the time of the colony, where it was believed that these animals obtained their food from the tender bodies of babies. It was said that the wolves only attacked out of hunger, being the devil who appeared to them and gave them a supposed magic belt with which they could change their shape, adopting the appearance of a killer animal. Then it was believed that the werewolves served as slaves to the supposed witches, but the truth is that they could never be seen together. One of the most interesting legends regarding werewolves in the colony is that of a farmer who was able to escape from one of them, and was able to cut off the leg of one of these beings by throwing it in the sack he was carrying. When he arrived home, terrified by what he had experienced, he showed it to his family, but when he did so, he discovered that it was a hand and not an animal's leg. For this reason he was sentenced to death by the authorities, who were alerted by another farmer who heard the story. Without giving him the opportunity to defend himself, he tried to mention on several occasions that he had cut off the paw of a wolf and not even a human, but obviously no one believed him, only his family, who for many days climbed the mountain in the hope of finding the man who was missing a hand, something that never happened. Later the legend changed, and it was believed that the witches were the ones who took the form of a wolf, but that was a confusion because they were attributed the power to become any animal which commonly receives the name of Nahual, which was very common in the Mexican lands, so confusing them would not be the most appropriate, but according to this version the witches took that form to go to their covens, attacking anyone who crossed their path. Anyway, in the colonial times there were many trials that were carried out condemning people who were supposed to change their shape, being called Nahual or Werewolf, and shortly after some other versions were born referring to the same myth which tells that the demoniac being obtained his powers from a witch that lived deep in the forest, who offered him a wolf skin and an ointment of special herbs with which they could stick the new attire to their skin. According to the legend, the werewolves never satiated their hunger, so they had to go out in search of raw meat, preferably of babies, since it was new and full of goodness. But they were also condemned to hell because when they lost their skins they also lost their mortality, the devil being the only being who could take them to the other world. Otherwise they would remain as souls in pain. Hence they are generally identified with the world of the dead, and it was believed that they were more active during the 12 nights after Christmas, a period in which the dead are supposed to roam the earth. Finally was born the version that said that the 7th male of a family would become a werewolf thirsty for blood and human flesh. The Black Charro. Ambition is always a very bad advisor. At least it was the reason why the mythical Black Charro began to appear in Mexico. It is said that many years ago in the city of Pachuca lived families of miners and day laborers who worked hard at ungodly hours and as slaves. Among them there was a man named Juan, who was very ambitious and never stopped complaining about his bad luck. One day at the end of his working day, he went to the town's cantina and began to drink in the company of his friends. Already drunk from so many drinks, he commented, "Life is very unfair to us. I would give anything to be rich and powerful." At this moment, a tall man dressed in a black charro suit entered the cantina and said, "If you want, your wish can come true." Upon hearing this, the others present crossed themselves and left. The strange being informed him that he had to go that same night to the cave called El Coyote, which in reality was an old abandoned mine. Juan accepted, emboldened by the alcohol more than by the money. At the agreed time he was already standing outside the mine, but he did not see anything extraordinary. He was about to leave when he discovered a hole in which there was a snake staring at him. Juan was impressed to see the huge size of the animal, so he decided to take it home to sell it later. At home he put the snake in an old water well that was dry and covered it with boards and rocks. His wife tried in vain to find out why he was late because the man was still drowned drunk. When he fell asleep, Juan began to dream of the snake, who said to him, "Thank you for giving me your home and accepting that I enter your souls. When you wake up you will find in your barn the payment for your soul. If you decide to accept it you will have to give me your male child." Juan had 2 children, a girl of 6 years old and a baby boy of barely 4 months. The next morning the man, still dazed by the effects of alcohol, went to the barn, where he found among the corn some sacks full of gold coins. He was not out of his astonishment when the cry of his wife brought him out of his concentration. His little son had disappeared while the girl pointed to the well without water. When Juan went to remove the boards and stones he found his little boy lifeless, but there was no trace of the snake. Juan consoled himself with money, bought land, and built a large hacienda. After a while the snake appeared in a dream before Juan to make a second deal. He offered to expand his fortune in exchange for more sons. Juan became a ruthless being. He had many mistresses, all of them from distant towns. When they gave birth to male children, Juan appeared demanding the child for his upbringing and taking him away from his mother. In a few years his fortune grew enormously, but the day came when the evil man died. It is said that at the funeral the people who were present were frightened when a Charro dressed in black came through the front door and shouted, "I am here for my last payment." After that the Charro disappeared, leaving a strong smell of sulfur. The intrigued people opened Juan's coffin and only found a skeleton. It is believed that since then El Charro Negro is looking for someone to exchange his soul and the souls of his loved ones in exchange for a few gold coins.